All right. Here I am. We're here with Brandon Moore, Slater Steel, right? It's just Slater Steel.
Slater Steel Welding, but sometimes we just say Slater Steel.
Slater Steel, Welding.
Either or it works.
Out of San Diego. Yep. Yeah. So we're just meeting with him, man. We met up. I'll let him kind of share how we came about to this interview. And we're just gonna go through just Brandon, just thanks, man. Thanks for reaching out. I'm curious as far as, because I think about perspective, when people, what people are seeing, what people are, because, we're our worst critics. So
oh yeah,
when I think about, because like on the YouTube things, that's where you saw us. When I think about that, because there's a lot of them that I won't, that if you think about it too long, I won't post them because then I start getting self-conscious. That was kind of cheesy, or that was kind of, that was kind of, so that's not real value to that. So I won't, do it. But on the live stuff, on, obviously it's live. I mean, I can delete it later, but it's out there. So I'm curious as far as content. I'm just curious, but if you can just share, just give me Slater Steel, where that came from, just a little introduction for you of who you are, what you got, what.
Yeah. So, well, thanks again for having me, man. I'm glad I reached out to you. Again, I like what you're doing, what you're putting out there. And so as far as background, I've been in the trades for, 15 years. I've been a welder for about 12. I got the idea of starting my own business because I worked for a mechanical piping company, and I ran into a rig welder. It was like, hey, you should just get your contractor's license. You should just do this for yourself. I didn't know anything about business or anything like that. So I talked to my wife about it, and she was like, yeah, let's go for it, So the name Slater, that's my son's name. And I was, both my children, my daughter and my son, my daughter's name is Sophia. So I was going to originally have it S and S Welding, Slater and Sophia's Welding. Yeah. But there was another company with that name. Always. And it's some little small shop, but, I can't take it. So I was working at a steel shop one day, and I was just writing down, names that I thought would work. And I just thought Slater Steel, Slater Steel would be pretty cool. So it just stuck, and that's what it is. I started it so my son can have something, and my daughter. Pretty sure my daughter is going to go a different direction. She likes it, but my son's he's fascinated with Tonka trucks and dirt and construction. So I think he's going to be into it. Yeah. So basically that's where the name came from. A little background of how we started. I started in just a truck, with a rented welder. I didn't have any equipment yet. I didn't know the first thing what to do. I posted some ads on Craigslist. I got a couple good hits off of that, but I found out real quick that really wasn't the route I wanted to go. My background is in the construction, steel construction, and I was kind of leaning towards like, how do I get in, with these bigger companies, and I can get a small portion of it. I've got a license now, but that's the thing. When people get their contractor's licenses, they think the work's going to just come in, and that's what I thought. It took me about 3 months really to figure out, how I was going to get anything or how I was going to get anywhere. And it's definitely been a journey, 2.5 years in now, the things that we're doing, I never thought that I'd see us, doing them just a couple months ago, to be honest, man. So that's, short background of where we come from and, what we do and where the name is. And
awesome.
So, yeah, that's that, man.
Awesome. So going back to the, kind of just real quick on the starting, there's a few different people that I kind of, target. I mean, there's a number, obviously there's people that have no idea what they're getting into when they open a video. But generally who I'm speaking to on these videos, one is a consumer, because that's trying to educate consumers about welding, the welding side. We run into that a lot. It's kind of the hidden trade, I guess. It's not really on the forefront. We don't we don't necessarily tag team directly with somebody, because again, we're usually a freelance person, because like here in Austin, we don't have to have a contractor's license in welding.
Yeah, which is cool.
So we'll tag on with a GC or something, or if it's individual person, they don't really know if we're not marketing to that, if we're not advertising towards that, so things open up and we kind of go. So, but there's there's certain things that we just try to educate the consumer on. And then, so that's one. The other is the entrepreneur, like yourself, that's, hey, the growing pains, like you've taught me some things already, just in our short stint, sharing some information. So that's another one. People that are new to welding, whether it's the student or just somebody, just trying to pick it up. And then, and that's really, those are kind of the three that I try to cover and kind of target as far as the conversation. So as far as, going to the consumer or the customer, what would, in that thought, I know you deal with commercial, you deal with more commercial, but as far as whether it's a GC, whoever your customer is, because I'm sure you do other jobs, just, the phone rings. Is there something that stands out that you wish the customer knew, or kind of a hint, a tip or something, as far as that goes, anything off, because in past, we've talked about, I've talked about just it's kind of like the bargain thing. It's like the welder is like the flea market trade. We try to, people tend to haggle and try to talk us down on our pricing, as a resident. So what we try to educate them on is, hey, well, just like that lawyer or that doctor, there's a lot invested in this. So, from the tools to the overhead to all that, to the background training, so that's something that usually comes, that's the first thing that comes to my mind.
No, I think that's an excellent question, and I deal with that all the time. I dealt with that when I first started. So when I started, my hourly rate, I got out of the hourly rate once I started learning more. But I get calls, let's say, from a homeowner, and they wanted a hinge welded onto their gate. Well, what we do is we charge an hourly rate with, an hour travel time with a 4-hour minimum. Doesn't matter how, big or small it is. That's just what it is. And some people, you deal with it all the time. They're like, oh, well, I got a guy who can do it for $50. Or I'm like, well, you can just, I kind of have a problem sometimes. I'm just really straightforward with people. I don't have time to mess around. I'm like, well, there's two options you can do. You can go spend $700 at Home Depot and get you a little welder, go watch a 10-minute video on YouTube and give it a shot. Or you can call the other guy that, said he'll do it for $25, let that thing fall off, and you can call me later, and then, we can talk about it. But I really do try to explain. I would say, let's start with the residential side. I don't really do too much explaining with them because they're not really interested. They might be interested on, like, oh, I thought about taking welding classes or this and that, but they're not really interested on, this red little welder that costs $1,600. That was hard to get in the beginning. And it's cost just as much to rent it, and they're like, well, you have to rent equipment. And I said, well, yeah, I can't, buy a $1,600 machine or a $500 machine if all you want to do is give me $20 for, all this work. When it comes to commercial side, when I explain to them, I'm a little harder on them because for me, a lot of project managers, I have good relationships with them, but some, we joke about it and where they're like used car salesmen to us, and they're like, yeah, we really want you guys to do this. We're good with your price. And then you get a contract signed. Next thing you know, they want to add all this extra stuff in. They want to, hey, can you find someone for us to do gutters? I'm like, we don't do gutters. Well, it's kind of in your scope. Like, all right, yeah, I'll find someone, and then you'll get a sub to come in and they'll do the gutters, and you put like, a 20%, markup fee on top of the subs price. Well, then project managers still want to talk you down. They want to talk you down. And I was thinking this morning that I feel like everybody in this industry, they want to know how they can save the most money and make the most profit, regardless of, a good company, like let's say yourselves or, mine. They don't really tend to care too much, as long as you agree with what's in your scope and your price, they're thinking, all right, cool. If you got to do a change order, please don't do it over $600. And then I'll explain to them like, hey, I'm letting you know right now, the material alone costs like $700. So I don't know what you want to do about that, but this is what it is. I'm not just going to go and kill myself so your multi-million-dollar company can come in and just lowball me. You know what I mean? I'm a fraction of what other companies, especially if they're union, are charging you. Yeah. So it's really just having to tackle on. I don't really explain like, okay, well, this costs this costs that. I've gotten to the point where it's like, you know what? My price is my price. You can go shop around at the companies that have been around for 40 years. They're probably a little more expensive than I am. I might maybe charge $20 less on an hourly rate per man. But, you know, when you think about shop overhead and all the costs, especially living here in California, you know, a shop is just about as much as a mortgage out here. And, you know, you have to take account for that. You know, you have to take account for all the insurances. You know, when we bid jobs, we always put in how much, I've got like 5 additional insurances that they require, and those cost a lot of money. You know, workman's comp costs a lot of money. So I factor that in, and you'll learn when you deal with Randy, that they actually, you know, his project summaries, and I'll send you something after we do this interview. It's a total breakdown of, you know, your hourly rates, and then, you know, what you want to profit, the insurances that you have to pay for, you know, because you want the GCs to pay for that. If they're asking for additional insurance, well, yeah, you got, you know, yeah, you got to have the money up front to pay for it to give to them, but it adds up, man. It really does. And so I just factor in, and I've kind of taught myself kind of like that, you know, I'm not trying to get political, but long time ago, I did read that book by Donald Trump, The Art of the Deal. And I was like, you know what, that's really solid what you do, or like, you know, how most business people really negotiate prices. It's like, you know what, we're okay. We've got another project going on, and I can't tell you how much that's worked for me. You know, where I've walked away from projects, you know, and been respectful to other GCs. I'm like, you know what, we're just not interested. I don't have a lot of time right now. And 90% of the time they call me back within like the next day. They're like, hey, we're good with it, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. It's just, you're negotiating, you know, they want to make profit. You want to make profit. You all want to succeed, but they're bigger than you, you know, they've got more finance, and they got more capital. They can afford to, you know, find other subs. But if they really trust you, that's where we get a lot of our work, because when we go to a job site, yeah, we might still be small, but we come and we deliver. We know exactly what we're talking about. We go over the plans. We go over every aspect of the job. And they're like, wow, you know, they're impressed. And that makes them want to keep calling you back. That makes them, you don't have to negotiate your price as much, because they know what they're paying for already. Gotcha. That makes sense. Yeah. It's just being overly confident with what you do as a company, who you are, and not being desperate is a huge, huge factor, especially when you're starting out. Yeah. When I started out, and I know you can relate to this too, you know, you're like, all right, cool. I'm working for myself no more. I don't have a steady paycheck. The first call, you're like, all right, cool. You know, I'm sure someone's talked you down quite a bit.
Whatever.
Yeah. Just whatever. If I can get my name out there, you know, if I make $15, or if I just need to get gas money, like I'm in it, you know, when you knew you could have made a lot more money. Yeah. Knowing what you were talking about and understanding them, because at the end of the day, everything's a negotiation. You know, and whether it be a homeowner, whether it be a commercial project, or a restaurant owner, another business owner, giving them a fair price at a solid rate, and then showing them what you can do. So my tactic is, I normally charge a little less if it's like me personally doing it. Mm-hmm. I do a killer job, or at least I try. And then they're like, you know what, man, please give me a card. That's worked for me so many times. And then they're confident if I send somebody else out there other than myself, as long as the communication's there. They're like, you know what, your rates are your rates, man. We're good with it. You know, we don't want anyone else coming in, because they feel confident with you, you know. Yeah. If they know that they need something done, they're going to call KVG Welding. They're not going to call anybody else out of all those companies. Yeah. It's the relationship building you have to do. So definitely. That's what I'd say to answer that question, brother. Cool.
So let's see, let's jump to the new welder. Let's somebody just coming into the field, like, again, as a student. One thing that I learned was, hey, when you're in school, it's like, because just like anything, I mean, you probably break it down. I'm sure most trades or most professions are the same. There's so many avenues you can go from where you're at, structural steel, to where I broke into was sheet metal shop, doing a lot of TIG welding. We did 90% TIG welding, a little bit of MIG welding. So those were, you know, precision parts type thing. That's kind of where I broke in. So the understanding of, it's a fill out process. It was a fill out process for me. It was good, but I was never content where I was at in that field. Just never satisfied. So I wasn't planning on being there, but I mean, while I was there, I was content. I was comfortable with it. I learned a lot, but I learned real quick the difference between being able to weld and being a welder, you know, in that, especially with those tight tolerances and whatnot. You know, using a tape measure, using a caliper, doing all those things. So when what is something that you usually tell somebody that's going into school that's talking about getting into the trade? What's something like that?
So yeah, I'm glad you asked that. So what I tell everybody is if they can, because the problem I have with welding schools, especially like the ones that they promote, on TV or on the radio, they're like $30,000, $40,000, courses, but all they're teaching you is how to pass a test plate. They're not really, I know there's a school in Kentucky that I'm actually I like a lot because they teach you more on fabrication, reading prints. They just teach you more than just to weld, because when I worked for a guy who's been in this industry for 40 plus years. And the one thing he said to me, and it stuck with me, was that there's no such thing as a welder. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, think about it. What we do here in our steel shop, it's 10% welding, 90% mental. And I think what schools should really start teaching is the basics of welding, obviously stick welding, flux core welding, MIG welding. I started out TIG welding first, aluminum and stainless steel before. I used to work on Navy ships. So my teacher was like, yeah, you can do aerospace. And I thought I was just going to weld. Well, when there was no welding to be done, I was getting sent home. So I think it's more important, and where welders, fabricators can really prosper and keep going, is that they understand prints, man. It sounds silly, but there's a lot of people out there who might have a hard time with regular construction math. And it takes a while. Yeah. It's basic math, but some people aren't used to it. And I wasn't. So it took me a long time, especially for field layout. What I tell other welders is, learn how to fit, learn how to understand the math behind it, getting your measurements correct, because half the time you're not just going to be burning wire. You've got to build something, obviously. Yeah. And the majority of the work, especially what you get, they're not going to just call you and say, hey, are you guys just welders, or do you guys do like fabrication? Because if you were just a welder, I don't know. It's kind of hard, especially where we're at. You know what I mean? If you can weld and build at the same time, you're more valuable. And that's if you're looking for a job. If you're working for yourself, if you have on a resume like, hey, so do you know how to read prints? No, but I have a certification. Most people are going to be like, all right, well, we need more than that. Yeah. So what I tell people, I said, if you can avoid, really, depending on what market in this industry you want to go towards, whether it be pipe welding, structural steel welding, aerospace welding, I say get an entry-level position, at a metal shop. A metal fabrication shop is probably the best start for anybody to do, because if you go as an entry level and don't do what most of us did in the beginning, was BS your way in there, like, oh yeah, I've done this, and the next thing they're like, you don't even know how to use an iron worker, man, like, get on out of here. Yeah. But basically, I would say just get an entry-level position, learn as much as you can, especially from the guys who've been in this trade, because the majority of the time they want someone, the younger generation, to come in and they just want to kick back and teach. Yeah. They don't want to have to come in there and climb up all this iron like they used to. Their bodies can't handle it, but they want to teach. And I think for me, it's been better for me to teach. I noticed I think that's how I found you, was when Joe Brown from Hogon. Yeah. I've spoke with him a couple of times, and what he does, I think, is great, with his consulting thing and everything. Yeah. And he has that big saying where he says, field welding is not shop welding. And that's the truth, because there's always problems that will arise in the field. And sometimes you're going to have to break away, and you're going to have to cut a beam. You got to be prepared for that. Yeah. So I would say, man, just get inside with somebody. I wouldn't suggest going to welding school to learn how to weld, because you're not getting paid. You're paying the school. So if you go into a shop or anywhere, eventually you're going to learn how to weld, and then you're going to get certified, and then you can go out and, the company will pay for it. And you have a lifetime certification. I think, I'm not against unions, but the ironworkers unions out here, they have killer programs. Really? That they have killer programs. It's called the University of Iron out here. And you can come in, and if you're off time or whenever, you can come and get certified. And the instructors actually help you with, blueprint reading and everything like that. So, that's where I would say to the new welder. And another thing too is most new welders that come in, they're like, oh yeah, we're going to make a lot of money. Not really. Not really. you're gonna spend a lot of money buying new shirts and stuff like that. That's for sure. But I think the entry level out here, depending, is like, I know on shipyards they start them with like $14 an hour, and they try to keep them there.
Yeah.
And they normally don't weld for like the first 6 months. If they're fire watching, they're helping, they're going to learn how to tack, they're going to learn how to do this, because they think they're going to come in and burn. And the majority of times they come in, they're confident they have a cert, and that you held them a gun, like say a spool gun for MIG aluminum, they freeze up. They're like, I don't want to mess it up, because I'm going to get chewed at. It's like, all right, that's no problem.
Yeah.
Just when you're ready, you're ready, But the schools, they're like, yeah, you can make $120,000 a year. And it's like, not starting out, not starting out. I mean, maybe if you're working prevailing wage jobs and whatnot, you might be there, but it just takes time, it takes time, and it takes field experience.
Awesome.
So
yeah, that's one thing I talk about often is what's in your toolbox, what's in your tool bag, physically and mentally, the stuff that you've picked up over the years, being able to lay out, doing all those are just priceless, ultimately.
It's key.
And and then the tool bag, physical and mental. Again, it's the physical. You need some tools,
Exactly.
And, some people show up to an interview without any tools, without sometimes without a hood. So it's like, that doesn't bode well. That's not a good start. So
and then you're probably asking for 30 an hour or so, and it's
something like that.
It's not like I don't want to pay you well, but you show up to a job site, and that's where you have to be a manager and an owner. It's like, would you hire me if I came with no welding hood, no gloves, no measuring tape? I mean, can you at least open up can you show me what a 1/4 inch gap is, or an 1/8 inch gap, or a 3/16? Can you do an open root? And they're like, what? I'm like, oh, all right.
Yeah. Let's reevaluate.
Yeah.
So cool. Yeah, that's some good stuff, man. I like that. So University of Iron Workers Union. Yeah, I guess as far as I looked at your website, I didn't look at it again this morning. What was do you have a like a motto, something that opposed from a mission statement that you have for the company? I'm just, while you think on it, I'm pretty outside the box thinking, and I'm trying to bring a lot of marketing, a lot of advertising, just a different, not necessarily spin, but just a different approach to this industry. To kind of, let's get ahead of the carpenters or the general contractors or whatever, not necessarily in that, as a bad thing, but just to put a face on the industry.
Well, so I guess what you're saying is, like, let's say your goal, are you trying to stay like small like you are, or is your goal to like really have, like, let's say like a corporate headquarters for KVG Welding?
I'm not opposed to that. I'm not opposed to that. It's ultimately it comes down to where God takes it. I'm going to put into it and invest and sow seeds, because I'm hoping to give opportunities to guys that, that need another chance, or just, whatever the case may be. And, and it's funny because that's not necessarily was a set out plan, was a plan I set out for, but that's kind of just how it's been working. People that come about, that's what it's been. So, and been some of the best guys that we've had. So, but I'm just not I'm not going to put any limits on it. There's no salary cap. There's no limits to this. I'm not Master P, but I understand that point, that you can go wherever you let yourself go. Like Joe talks about, there. What does he say? Your imagination is your limitation.
Yeah.
So I'm open. Again, I'm trying to do on my level, I'm trying to open up, because when I talk about commercial and we talk about the different aspects, I want to be able to pivot when something slows down. I want to already have something in place that says, okay, well, the commercial side slowed down. Well, but we still have the residential, we still have this product line, we still have this repair service that we need to just bring some guys over, you know. So that's that's really what part of the vision. Again, it's not a totally fulfilled vision, because I'm not trying to put limits and boxes on it, but in the same vein, I get inspired like by Joe for those things. You know, when I see things like that, I'm like, man, how can I implement it? Not, you know, and I hope he takes it as I mean, he puts a lot of that stuff out there for that. And that's where I talked to him as well. And I was like, hey, I get inspired by that. I take that as a challenge, not as a competition. But I mean, we can do a friendly competition, but I take it as a challenge to step up my game. What more can I do? Because if he's doing all that, because I told him, I was like, dude, how do you do all them posts? Like, what do you're just killing it. And I'm like, he didn't even know about Buffer and some of those things where you can schedule out things. I was like, man, I don't know how you do it. You must have somebody doing it. I don't know. I didn't get a clear answer, but it was just, you know, those things from the different spiel. Cause I have ministry stuff that ultimately I want to get into and spend my time in. So yeah, I guess this is something that I would like to have that's running so that I can go full time into my nonprofit.
I can't agree with you. I couldn't agree with you more on that. And I'm glad you brought that up. So I'll cover when it comes to Joe on Hog On. You know, when I watched your guys' interview, him and I are both very fortunate to have two spouses that really help keep us going. Because I'm telling you, man, there's times that I say, you know what, I think I'm going to go get a management position over at McDonald's where I get some respect, because I'm done, you know, or I'm over it. I'm done. I can't take it anymore. I'm tired of dealing with this guy. And then my wife's in the service, and, you know, luckily she's the one that keeps it going, because she, you know, just like Joe's wife said, she's like, you know, hey dude, the money's too good. You know what I mean? Like, you got to keep going. And I want to help. And my wife's the same way. She's like, you know, we've look where we've come from when we started. And my end goal really is, like you said, is that I want to be the owner. You know, I don't want to be the guy that works for the company that I started. Yeah, obviously in the beginning you have to do that. But what I want is a full scale system to where I know that financially the projects that we have and where we want to go, I've got someone who can basically run and do the things that I'm doing, you know. So it allows me to focus on other things, because I'm really interested in business acquisitions, like taking on other businesses and stuff. I'm fascinated with it, you know? So I figured I mean, I love what I do, you know, but there's other things that I'm interested in, you know. I'd rather teach up guys, have them run my company for me, take care of them, make sure they never want to leave. You know what I mean? That's the most important part. Yeah. And then kind of focus on other things, like you said, like your nonprofit. And, you know, back to the company motto, I've never really thought about it. I call us, you know, my guys, we're like the bad boys of construction, you know, the bad boys of welding. And, you know, when we come into a job site, we come in professional, we work with other trades, and, you know, we help each other out. But we just don't take any, excuse my language, we don't take any shit from the bigger guys, you know, the ones that try to talk us down, you know, the GCs or whatever. We're just like, all right, cool. Well, I'll tell you what, we're out, you know, bye. Yeah. Own it. Oh, come on, man. Come on. You know, it's like, well, you know, you don't got to go this route. You know, we're not big like you, but at least, you know, we're thinking big like you. And all these big companies were at a certain point in time when they started out. You know, but I think it's really important to just start understanding where you see your company. So like you said, you know, if commercial's getting slow, you want to have that to where you constantly have something else going on in case something else is getting slow. And for me, I think the reason why I've been steering away from residential, because commercial has really been taking up all of my time. Yeah. And I don't really have a lot of relationships with too many smaller GCs that, you know, let's say build apartment complexes and that come in and, you know, they need steel put up. So that's the thing that I'm trying to figure out as well is, all right, how can because I kind of want to slow down with the commercial game right now. You know, it's a lot crammed in, especially if you don't have a lot of the manpower. Yeah. And it gets stressful because it's like you finish a job, and then you start you start managing the money where it needs to go, payroll, rental fees, equipment costs, things like that. And then you're kind of left with what you want to get left over with. Next thing you know, you want to take like a 2-month vacation because your brain's just fried.
Yeah.
Like I said yesterday, my brain was just, I didn't even open my emails. I didn't answer a phone call. I just can't, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I could barely get out of bed. Because a lot of it's been mental stress. It's mental stress.
That's the worst. That's the worst of it. I know where
you're staying up all night, and you're kind of, because you have a vision of where you want your company to go. You know, and like you said, your ministry thing, you know, that's on your mind too. So your goal is to get what you started right now to run on autopilot, basically.
Yeah.
Come in, check in, sign the checks, make sure everything's okay. Have a couple meetings with some GCs, and then boom, you're off to, you know, your nonprofit, and you're taking care of that. That's the ultimate goal for, I think, for a lot of companies. Some like working out of their trucks, man. I mean, me personally,
I get it.
I'm not really into that. You know, I'm thinking bigger, like, you know, if there's people that are interested, because I do notice that the trades really are kind of hurting right now. You know, big tech's been taking over. A lot of the younger generation right now, they're kind of into the tech world, you know, so it's hard for us to find tradesmen to really kind of help out. You know, that's why I think it's important. What you're doing is good to kind of motivate and, you know, get people to look forward to wanting to do this, you know, for a living. Because this business, you can make a lot of money. You really can. You know, it just takes a lot to start. It really does take a hold on you. But that's what makes you different from everybody else. You know, you're the one that puts in the work, and that's what makes, you know, like you and me and Joe, that's what makes us different from being employees. You know, employees want to come, they want to feel comfortable, they want to work for a good company. Well, people like us, we like the challenge. You know, we like the challenge, and we're constantly thinking, all right, what direction is it going to go? What am I going to do? You know, where do I want to be in the next 2 years? And it's important to continue to think like that. For anyone that wants to get into this business or start their own business, you know, look forward to that. You know, there's going to be a lot of pain. There's going to be a lot of gain. There's going to be a lot of breakdowns. You know, you're going to sit down and you're going to cover your face and be like, I don't know how I'm going to make it, you know, the next week. And you're tired. And then, you know, you're lucky if you get $50 and your helper or whoever gets, you know, a full paycheck. That's just the game, man. You know what I mean? It's the sacrifices, but you learn and it teaches you. And then you're so addicted to it, you know, it's almost like being addicted to a drug. You know, you're like, I know nothing else. I can't go back now. I have to continue working for myself. I have to continue making sure my guys are taken care of, you know nothing else after that. Cause there's no way you're going to go and apply to a job and have somebody else be like, all right, man, yeah, go ahead and do this. You're like, no, that's my job. That's what I do. You know what I mean? So it's fun, man. I wouldn't trade it for the world, but I will say, honestly, you know, go into it with a strong mentality, knowing that it's not going to be overnight success, you know, unless you got the bankroll to cover it, you know, you might be okay. But in reality, man, it's a game, and you just got to learn how to play it. You know what I mean? But I think you're going in the right direction with having that on autopilot and then doing your ministry thing. I think that's awesome. You know, it's important to do that. And that's what Joe does too. You know, he diversifies himself with other things, you know, the container, the consulting, you know, he's a smart entrepreneur like that. You never want to focus on one business acquisition. You know, you want to continuously have other ways to make other income that can probably help your business in hard times. And that's the thing. So glad you're thinking like that.
I really, again, that really pushes me, the way he markets, like imagine your container, imagine your container. Imagine he's putting it on you. You're going to get it. Somebody's going to get a container.
Exactly.
And
he's a good hustler, man. He's a good hustler because he stays motivated. You know, he keeps grinding.
That's the type of slant I like to take as well. You know, put things out there. If you don't, you know, you miss all the shots you don't take, right?
Exactly.
Any of them. So,
and when it comes to marketing, you know, I don't really have to market too much. I mean, I'm sure you noticed that I'm not really a big fan of social media, the way things have been going. I have a real big problem. I have to constantly be different. You know, I'm not a trend follower. I like to do my own thing. If something's like a hot right now, you know, like, I'm going to go the exact opposite way.
Gotcha.
I don't know if you can see right here, you know, we're part of the, probably not, but part of the Associated AGC, the Associated General Contractors. So they basically, you know, they help you with your advertising. You can pay for it, or they just make, you know, they put it out there to other companies like, hey, you know, they just joined and you're on a bid list and other GCs contact you. So that's how I've learned how to do my marketing.
Okay.
Is not necessarily, the Craigslist thing or the flyers. What you want to do is you want to get in with someone or pay someone that does like mailing list, like Randy, for instance. Yeah. I found him because his company randomly wrote me an email. I don't even know how he got my email. Maybe he was searching for welding companies in San Diego, but they have a huge proposal. And I think it's really important that people maybe find somebody to write like a really nice like letterhead and just reach out to, it might cost a couple $100 for a mailing service, and send it out to like GCs, and you never know. If you send it out to like 200 GCs, someone's calling you. Yeah. It's happened to us. And I'm telling you, I get more calls a day. I tried the Blue Book Construction Network for a little bit. That helped. I know they're out there in Texas too. They're all over. They've been around for a long time, but that's another good way to get some, you'll get a lot of bid invites on that. We've gotten lucky with a few jobs, from them. I don't do the home advisor thing or the thumbtack thing. Yeah. I don't think it would hurt, I have a buddy who sticks in the residential game. He does commercial when he can, but he makes more money. He can run his business better when he does residential. Gotcha. Because it's smaller. He can keep cash flow coming into the business. Yeah. He doesn't have to wait 30, 60 to 90 days for a payout in commercial, and that's another big thing. Yeah. But yeah, as far as advertising, when I had my Instagram, I pretty much shut it off. I don't do the Facebook thing. I just knew where to reach out. I knew what companies I wanted to reach out to. And for you, as far as commercial, I'd reach out to bigger steel erecting companies. Yeah. We're part of the AWS, the network, okay, which is good. And you can really get yourself involved with inspectors. Inspectors are like gatekeepers, and they have a lot of info. And like, I've gotten quite a few jobs off inspectors that I've met. Okay. That they have to go inspect the job. They need some welding done. And I mean, I'm telling you, man, I've definitely prospered off that for sure. Yeah. Can you give me 1 sec? I got to give my keys to the wife real quick. Sorry about that, brother.
No problem.
Always something.
So, AGC, the Associated General Contractors, and that's a national association.
Yep.
Okay.
So cool. See right here. I don't know if you can see it all right.
Yeah.
You see that?
Yes.
So I would go the Associated General Contractors of Texas.
Okay.
And you just call them. Normally you'll talk to the guy in charge of getting you, in membership, and just tell them you want to be a specialty, because they've got different fees for different size companies. You become specialty, you get access to their plan room. You can see what jobs are going on all throughout Texas. They've got events. Obviously not right now with, the whole pandemic thing going on, but normally they have events, and those are cool because you get to go and network, hey, we're all meeting up. We're going to go to a golf course. We're going to go to a baseball game, we're going to go drink some beers and chill. Next thing you know, you're meeting all these different GCs and you're making friends with them. You give them a card and they're like, well, I got this going on. I got that going on. We'd be more than happy to, give us a number. Just give us a number, or come by.
Gotcha.
That's just how it is. And that's how I've gotten the majority of my work, Okay. It's just being on job sites, inspectors wanting my number, superintendents, for bigger companies, like, hey, give us a t-shirt. That's key too. Always have a couple t-shirts to throw to the superintendents on the jobs, because the next one they go on, they'll be wanting you to go.
Gotcha.
That's huge. It's key.
Gotcha.
And yeah, man. So, I mean, you do that, you get involved. For me, I tried the Google ad things for a little bit, but I wasn't really getting a lot of luck with it. I was getting more calls for stuff that I didn't want, and it's important important too, to understand your niche with what you're doing. For us, we focus on structural steel erection, welding, fabrication. If we get some railings, we'll do some railings, but I try to either sub that out if it's in my scope of work, because I just feel like the erecting part is just a lot easier. So I stick with that. So if I get calls, I'll pass them off to like a smaller mobile welder or something like that. And that goes a long way too. When you're passing off like smaller jobs to smaller companies, they'll be calling you. Be like, hey, this guy called me to see if I could do it, but it's way too big for me. Yeah. And then next, he's like, well, here, give me a call. And then that's what it is, man. It's just a network full of construction guys.
Have you ever been to Fabtech? Are you familiar with Fabtech?
I have not been to Fabtech. I wanted to go to Fabtech. do you follow that guy Icy Weld on
Yeah.
Instagram?
Yeah.
He's awesome. Torch Norris. Yeah. No, I didn't. I've never been to Fabtech before, but I've been wanting to go.
Okay.
Most definitely.
Yeah, he's actually down the street. I've met him a few times at we have weld competition at the school I went to, TSTC, Texas State Technical College, TSTC, yeah, Technical College, and we met there, and that's when I started following. But we didn't really get to connect until we were at Fabtech. We're at Fabtech, and then it's like, oh, you kind of, familiar face, you're out of town, whatever. So that's when we kind of started having a better rapport. So he's there. I was going to ask you real quick before we close up we have, right here in the Austin area, we have Fabtech, the gas apparatus, torches, and whatnot. We have in Elgin, we have Reel. And I thought there was one more thing, but those couple of companies I was going to see, because I actually did an interview, and I'm trying to get it uploaded so I can run the video with the brass there at Fabtech, who I actually met at Fabtech as well. Started building a rapport with them and got a lot of their products because I wasn't aware of them while I was going through school, and I don't know torches, Victor and this and that, but they're local, so I want to support them.
I think Fabtech's awesome.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, what's common out there? Because he said it's a regional deal. If you go to New York, or go upstate, you got different, Goliaths.
So as far as like equipment, like it's kind of like what's common, Miller or Lincoln out here, like Flamethrower. So what's really common out here is Miller welders. I'm more of a Lincoln guy myself. I just like Lincoln. But we more common. It's just Victor torches that are around here, because we got swap meets, and it's really rare that we'll find like a nice Fabtech. I mean, Fabtech's killer. I've used them quite a few times, but we normally just use the Victors, because they've been around so much longer. But Fabtech, I think, is way more heavy duty as far as like, cutting like coils. I mean, they've got some insane pieces of equipment. Victor's just like the torch itself, but I think it's right now for what we do, it's just a standard Victor torch. Some people can bring out a Fabtech, but I never really see them. They've got sales guys out here all the time, but we're just Victor pretty much. I mean, if I get a Fabtech, I'll take a Fabtech for sure. Fabtech's awesome.
You hear that, Fabtech? He's willing and ready.
yeah, exactly, man.
So and then so you already answered the other one, Lincoln to Miller guy. I think that was all on that note. Kind of looking at some notes here.
It's kind of funny. I think you're not going to go to Texas and go on like a pipeline or whatever, showing up with a Miller. That's what I've been told. That's what they tell me. But
yeah, I mean, I've never been a pipeline guy. That wasn't ever really my aspiration, whatnot.
Yeah.
When I started, I had I went and got me a 1-ton truck, and and I had a little Trailblazer on it, and it's like, I didn't know any better. Figured that's what I needed. So, but we just, as far as school and then the shops that I've been in, everything was Miller. So it's kind of,
well, Miller's got a killer. If you think about it, someone made a good point. Lincolns are like the Harley Davidsons of welding machines, they've been around a lot longer, obviously, and the Miller was like the new age, and Miller just got a killer marketing program. But at the same time, Lincoln stepped up their game a lot too. It's just two competing things. If you're red or blue. But I think if like the Lincoln Vantages, they're the best, obviously, when it comes to But they work great on our LN25s too. I like them. I've got a 302 Trailblazer, and that thing's killer. I mean, it's a diesel. I've had it for about 2 months now. It's still full. It's killer, man. It's just anyone's preference, really. I mean, I've got a Lincoln wire feed welder too. Just whatever I can get my hands on.
Yeah, there's that point.
Yeah,
There's that
it's
point. You got to get started. You just get what you can.
yeah, exactly. And I haven't tried the ESOB welders yet. You know, I know
Yeah.
Jesse James promotes those quite a bit. I'm curious to see how those are going.
Yeah.
If you ever get your hands on one, man, do a video or review on it. Let me
Okay.
know. Or
Yeah,
if
and
I
I've
do,
heard
I will
about.
them.
What have you heard about Fronius? I've heard about Fronius as well.
Not much on Fronius,
Yeah,
but
I've heard
maybe
some
new and up
things.
and coming.
I'm sorry.
Is it like new and up and coming?
Yeah, kind of. I forgot where they're out of, but it's just another ESOP type deal, I guess.
Yeah.
But it seemed I've heard good things about it, but I've never put my hands on one. So
Yeah.
but like I said, if it can make it stick, man, let's
Yeah.
fire that thing up.
Yeah.
Do
Do you guys run? I wanted to tell you before we closed out. Do you guys run a lot of NR 232?
NR 232? What's that?
It's inner shield wire.
Apparently that's not what we do a whole lot of. No. Yeah, not on the. So are you doing dual shield? Because I'm thinking.
No. So dual shield would be with gas.
Yeah, I'm thinking because we do inner shield. I mean, that's what we do on the shop. As far as the kind it is, I'm trying to think what is, because we just use.
Like, okay, so like the welders that we use, and that's why I wanted to ask you this question, because especially on structural steel.
Okay.
A lot of the times, dual shield is used for shop welding.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're running, I think it's like 75-25, like CO2 and argon.
Yes.
If I'm not, like, if it's a mix.
Yeah.
No, but the inner shield, so it's technically called E71T8.
Yeah, that's
made by Lincoln. But you'll put it into your it's like hardwire.
Yeah, no, that's what we.
Lead.
Yeah, that's what we use. Yeah. Yeah, that's what we use mostly on our, because we have two little MIGs that we'll run. We'll pretty much our portables. We'll take them for our fencing, for our small stuff.
Yeah. So there's 211 that's smaller wire, like 035. And then and the reason why I'm bringing it up is that, again, going back to like, the new welders or whoever, want to come into like working with steel or anything like that. Can't stress the importance of actually learning how to use that wire, because that's all you're going to use when you're doing field welding. You'll do minimal stick welding, but when you're really welding up, steel structures, learn that one, because it's different. It's not like the gas and it's protecting the weld. Like, if you go past, you got to stay in the puddle with that wire. Yeah. And if you go past it, it's going to pierce right through the metal. And a lot of people get frustrated with it because they're like, dang, I thought that, I know how to do dual shield. I'm like, well, it's 10 times hotter because there's no gas protecting the weld. Yeah. But it's a good thing to know and have in case you run into that situation, to have someone trained on it, because it's not, I wouldn't say it's difficult. It's just different, and it takes time to learn it. When you're used to running dual shield and then you go out in the field and you ain't got no gas. Gotcha. You don't want to grind that out all day, especially in front of an inspector, so that's another thing that I think that they should start teaching in schools, because they only teach really dual shield. I think they should really teach the inner shield. Yeah. The basics, inner shield, stick welding. TIG's always great to learn, if you're doing like sheet metal fabrication. But yeah, I just wasn't sure if you guys used a lot of that or not, because that's all we really use. We use a lot of NR232. Really? And we have to deal with a lot of full pens, and it's important to know how to run it for sure. Gotcha. Yeah, I have to look into that. Well, awesome, man. I appreciate the time. I want to just wrap up. Thanks, man. Thanks for reaching out. Thanks for what you do. Thanks for encouragement. Thanks for following all that, man. Keep grinding, man. Keep grinding. Same to you, but don't give up. Grateful. Just like I'm grateful. Stay grateful for wife. Awesome wife. Help supporting, encouraging, providing when you need to. Hey, I'm there too, man. That's helps us get through a lot. We all need. Yeah, so we all need to push us forward, and we're our own worst enemies at the end of the day. We can live in our heads, but it always helps when you got someone who's right there behind you who believes in you. To keep you believing in yourself. So, I appreciate what you do, man. I thank you for having me on and doing this interview. And like I said, if there's any other time or anything else I can do to help you, or any questions you have, please give me a call. That's what we're all here for. We're all here to help each other out. Yeah, definitely. That's all. That's what's awesome about the welding industry is. Usually, for the most part, everybody's pretty receptive and open to sharing something.
you know,
yeah.
and encouraging and just being, you know, just
Mhm.
talking. I mean, pretty,
Yeah.
and that's what's awesome about it. Like I said, from industry, any part of the industry. So
Yeah.
I appreciate it, man. God bless, and
God bless you too, brother.
keep grinding, and we'll keep growing. I'm gonna keep sharing. We're gonna get together again because you can't
Yeah.
cover everything we need to cover.
Oh,
We'll do it again for